Our next intervention is with two leading ladies when it comes to investments in society. And we can see and we will learn that sustainability is right at the top of their agendas. So let's learn about how females are leading the way. And I'm delighted to hand over the mic to Seipati Mokhua. She is the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at HD Afrika. That's a marketplace to build an Africa for Africans, the Africa that Africans would like to see. And she's also the chair of the Southern Africa Women in Leadership organization. Seipati, delighted to see you. Over to you.
Thank you, Andrew, so much for that lovely introduction. Still in the spirit of International Women's History Month, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to interview this renowned author, speaker, and thought leader who is going to share with us on the importance and role of women in impact investment. Evidence informs us that women across the world are concerned about the impact of their investments, with the large majority who are highly motivated to create positive environmental and societal change through their investment decisions. At the same time, the concept of financial feminism, the belief in the financial equality of women, is rapidly gaining momentum. But Jessica Robinson, a sustainable and impact investing expert, argues that financial feminism is more than simply addressing the financial inequalities that women face. Financial feminism is about unleashing the growing financial power of women to create positive change in the world through the way they invest. She is a frequent contributor, author, published author, speaker at conferences on issues including green financing, financial market developments, climate finance policy, broader sustainable finance issues, as well as gender equality. She recently published a book on sustainable investing entitled Financial Feminism, A Woman's Guide to Investing for a Sustainable Future. In this discussion, we explore the trends driving financial feminism and what can be done to empower women to become impact investors. So help me welcome Jessica. Jessica, thank you so much for this opportunity to have a conversation with you on this very, very important subject. Shall we get into it?
Thank you. Very pleased to be here.
Lovely. So I'm going to fire away with the questions. I don't know if you want to say something before we start, but the first question that comes to mind is, maybe let's start by talking about women and wealth. What are the main trends that are happening and how is this affecting the investment world?
So I think that, I think it's very important that we really understand and recognize some of these trends and developments of when it comes to women and wealth, because I do think these are having an increasing impact on the financial industry and the investment world, but also in terms of impact and sustainable investing. I think it's really important that we do have these events such as this to explore this, particularly as it relates to financial empowerment for women. Because I believe in many instances, women are actually leading the way in impact investing. And the more we unpack what's happening, the more we can support women on this journey. I think in terms of really the first overriding trend is something we're very familiar with. Women face very significant multiple financial related gaps, obviously starting with the gender pay gap, which gets a lot of coverage. We also talk a lot about the gender funding gap, where female-led businesses are receiving much less in terms of capital investment to grow their businesses. But we are also facing, across the world, the gender investing gap. Now, this really is around how women are generally investing less than men. They're leaving much more in cash, and then this is having significant implications for their pensions, their retirements, and so forth. Interestingly, we also face the gender debt gap, where women tend to pay more for their debt than men. Now, at the same time as this situation, we're also seeing that women now control a significant chunk of the world's wealth. So it's an estimated 30% of global private wealth that women hold. And this is expected to grow annually. Increasingly, it's self-generated, so no longer just from divorce or inheritance, it's actually self-generated, demonstrating the extent to which women are economic powerhouses. We're creating, we're controlling, and we're influencing a huge amount of wealth. The other interesting trend, which obviously is the focus of my book, and you referred to at the beginning, we now have a better understanding of what women want when it comes to investing. There's an increasing amount of evidence that they do care about the bigger picture as consumers, as employees, and as evidence. It really sits at the core of the concept of financial feminism and the big assertion in my book around how we can leverage this high motivation towards sustainability and impact to support women on their journey. Interestingly, we undertook some global research and we found that across the women surveyed in different countries, 83% of women said that they care about where their money is invested, with a 79% feeling that it's an urgent need to act in order to build a better world for our children. With a 69%, it's important that investment and savings decisions reflect personal values and philosophies. So it's sort of against that all the change that's underway, and against that context that financial feminism becomes so important.
Wow, so thank you for such a comprehensive answer. And I mean, you touched on a very interesting issue that I think should be trending as much as, like you said, your gender equality, your pay gaps, etc. And that's the issue of women being economic powerhouses. And over and above the fact that we are genetically caregivers, it just makes sense that impact investment would be such a priority to a woman in essence, because we are nurturers, we're mothers, we tend to look after life itself. So I really think that there needs to be more emphasis on us also being economic powerhouses and the support maybe that one would expect with that and from that. The second question I have for you is, what does financial feminism mean, and why does it matter? Is it gathering momentum, or what is holding us back as women?
So, as with all things related to feminism, we're talking about equality. And obviously, in this case, we're talking about the belief in the financial equality of women. I think really for anyone that cares about feminism and about financial feminism, we really have to get to grips with the gaps I outlined before, but also to leverage those trends as well in terms of the growth of women's wealth and recognizing what they need from the investment industry. Now, my argument sits that it's much more than just financial equality. I really believe that financial feminism is more than women simply earning and investing on a par with men. I think it's actually about empowering women to use their money, to use their wealth, to push for that positive change in the world. I think it's about encouraging and supporting women to recognize that they can use their money to create the kind of world that they want to live in. And that's really where I come back to the discussion on impact and sustainable investing. Women investing in companies and sectors that are aligned with their vision for the world and where they can really drive that impact. So, for example, women supporting other women in businesses, investing more, but investing more consciously. And through all of this, I believe that financial feminism has the potential to give women a voice to determine that change. And I do feel that this is very personal, very powerful on both a personal and a professional level. And we're seeing that level of engagement really coming through in the markets as well. Now, in terms of what's holding women back, I think we need to be careful not to generalize. But in doing so, I think we also need to recognize some of the challenges that women face. So one of the big ones being confidence. Research indicates that there is a lack of confidence in investing in the first place. Some women report that they don't feel they understand the financial products well enough, but they also lack time and limited investment knowledge. And this is really important as well when we talk about impact investing, because impact investing does require some time investment to really understand and seek out the products and seek out the opportunities that you want to invest in. I also think there's a whole piece around the way the financial industry interacts and engages with women. We know that, reports and evidence from across the world, many women feel patronized when they sit in a meeting with a financial advisor. They find the language and terminology used is condescending or perhaps confusing. And I think that this is part of how we need to address what needs to happen and what needs to change. And actually that the fact that many in the financial industry are not recognizing both the opportunity that goes with the female client base, but two, in terms of what they're looking for financial products. And that's really around understanding sustainability, impact, responsible investing, and that whole world as well. So I think in terms of the opportunity for the financial industry, this is a very exciting moment in time.
Great. So is this, according to you, a global phenomenon, or are there regional trends that maybe we can observe? What about the MENA region in particular?
So the short answer is yes, it's very much a global phenomenon. And I've done quite a lot of research. There's a lot of other research out there from investment banks, which demonstrates the strong trends that we can observe. It's very clear that there is a drive to empower women in their financial investment decisions. The proportion of wealth now owned by women is growing. The problem I reported about women feeling disengaged, but also the clear focus on women, by many women, on creating that positive impact, whether it be in society or the environment. Now, in terms of the MENA region, I do believe this is aligned very much with what we see elsewhere. And that's very clear. Unfortunately, the data and research is not as extensive as it is in other markets and can be quite limited. But I do think it's really clear that we can observe a number of themes or trends for the MENA region that are worth recognizing. This focus on financial empowerment, for example, we see multiple financial literacy campaigns launched by governments and targeting women. We see local financial institutions focusing on female staff and clients as well. Just yesterday, I was speaking at a local bank talking about financial feminism to female, actually, and male employees as well. And I also think we're seeing regulators and other organizations develop female-focused accelerators really to address that funding gap that I mentioned before. And then on the wealth front, again, we know that this is growing. Data is not as good as it is, say, in Europe, but we do know that it is very much growing, and we're looking at trends. When we look at what's been reported, perhaps in about 5 years' time, we'll be looking at $1 trillion US dollars owned by women in the region. At the same time, we do observe that women in MENA are underserved by the financial industry. There are, of course, women-only services such as bank branches or female-focused banks, but that really only meets the need of a small group of women. We really do need to work harder in terms of understanding how women in the region interact with the financial industry, and actually the kind of investment products that they're seeking for and what's catered to them and their circumstances and their needs and their ambitions. And I do think, it can be observed that in MENA, a lot of women really are thinking about impact and thinking about the longer term. I mean, just anecdotally, I have many women reach out to me from across the region to talk about impact and sustainable investing. And I've been absolutely overwhelmed by the level of interest, both by women, by banks, but also the media here in MENA in the launch of my book. And I really think that all signals something very positive for the impact investment industry here.
Wow. So I must mention, I think we all know that I am obviously from Africa. It sounds more, or less the same kind of challenges that we have as women investors and even as entrepreneurs here in our continent and even in the southern part of the continent. So I know MENA includes, the northern part of the continent, but it is indeed a phenomenal, a worldwide phenomenon, not just maybe for the MENA region. I agree with you. And even here in Africa, we tend to have the same challenges. So you wrote a book, right? Why did you feel the need to write a book for women specifically? Why not for men?
I like this question. So I have to say, and I'm very clear at the very beginning, this is not a man versus a woman issue, right? sustainable impact investing, everybody should be doing it. You know, this is my field, so it is something for everybody. And I never want it to be interpreted as though this is a message just for women. However, the book is intended to try and address some of the shortfalls of the finance and investment industry, whereby I just feel they're simply not engaging with women in the way that they want to be engaged with. So when I set up Moxie Future about 5 years ago, it was really a reflection on, I was doing my day job, and I was always struck by the number of professional women who would come up to me after speaking at an event and say, please, can you tell me more? I want to learn more. And I always received the message that they felt they couldn't go to financial advisors to talk about this, and they were seeking a community. And that's really what Moxie Future is. And the book is an extension of that. The aim is very simple. I just want to empower women to take the next step, to feel more confident with their money. And when they put the book down, to feel that they can start pushing for change in terms of where and how we invest. And that is really core to my philosophy, is being able to give them enough information and confidence to go to the financial advisor, to go to their bank and say, yes, I want to invest, but when I invest, I want to consider the impact of those investment decisions. I want products and services that are tailored to my ambition to be an impact and sustainable investor. And really, that's as simple as it is. The style of the book is very chatty. It's kind of like having a conversation with me. It's accessible. It's really intended to sort of build a sisterhood of like-minded women who really just want to engage and push for something different through the financial industry.
Great. Now, Jessica, tell me, if we want to really make a change happen where this is concerned, what do we need to do? What does the financial industry need to do?
So I think the first thing, and we really need to have these hard philosophical conversations around acknowledging the challenges we face. You know, the bottom line is we're consuming at such an unsustainable rate, and the consequences are huge. I mean, we all know as we come, into 2021, when we look at climate change and how we're going to resolve this. So I think the first thing we need to do is translate these challenges into the finance and investment industry, and to face up what is required in terms of capital flows and how this is going to be done around financial innovation, and engaging not only institutional investors, but retail investors, people like you and I. I then think we need to start challenging the finance and investment industry itself. This is around the purpose of capital and where we philosophically feel we should be going. I think we need to talk in much greater depth around things like climate risk and what this means for the financial stability of our systems. And this is particularly pertinent when you look at 2020, right? Because what we've learned from the pandemic is how these global systemic risks can have ripple through effects and how interconnected we are. But at the same time, the grave inequality that we face and how different people experience things like pandemics and climate change in different ways. So I think that's the other key element to this. And then finally, we need to take action ourselves. As individual investors, we have a voice, we can be part of a movement, and we can push for change in the way that we invest.
Absolutely agree with that. And it starts with where we are as well. As individuals, I have to really agree with you on that one. And as we close our discussion, what advice can you give to women who want to engage more with impact investing?
So I think one of the key thing is you have to prioritize what you care about. We cannot fix the whole world with our investment decisions. You have to determine what your priorities are. So for someone like me, climate change, I'm an environmental economist, that's my critical issue, as well as gender. So you have to go through that process first to determine what are the priority issues for you and where you want to invest for maximum impact. You have to determine what your boundaries are, how much time you want to put into this, whether you want external advice, whether you're going to put all of your investment portfolio into this or not. But you have to have those discussions with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your partner up front to determine how to move forward. And then ultimately, it's about getting more educated, making conscious decisions and being more empowered. The phenomenal thing is there's such a wealth of information now. There are investment tools, there are investment apps, there are sustainability reports, there's ESG data coming online all the time. So I think actually we now sit at a very good point where it's much more accessible to be actually an active impact investor. And it's much more democratized than it used to be. So as a woman, now is the time to really take advantage of that and take action. And then I think the final thing is start spreading the word. Make sure you're having those conversations with other women who are thinking about investing, and start talking about impact investing and all the exciting opportunities that are out there.
Great. So what I'm taking from that is that invest in what you care about. So prioritize what is important to you in terms of the world that you serve or that you live in. And I think that's exactly that this investment forum also focuses on doing and what it does and will continue to do. So thank you so much for this beautiful conversation and these nuggets and pearls of wisdom, and for your time, Jessica, for being with us today. Really appreciate.
Thank you.